Okay.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. I am Dr. Carol Petherbridge. I am the founder of Freedom Regenerative Medicine here in Bend, Oregon. And I am a naturopathic physician, and I specialize in treating women's urinary incontinence and sexual function. And recently, I had a women's intimate health support circle on January 24th, 2023. And I had a number of esteemed guests at this event. And I have with me today Dr. Gail Jett, who is also one of my panelists at the event. So today is a time or opportunity for us to answer some of the questions, the burning questions that women asked at the event and left in our question box. And we had so much fun at the event, we didn't get to answer all the questions. So Gail has joined me today so we can do a deeper dive into what Gail offers in her practice, and we're going to answer some of the questions together. So I have Gail, your bio here with me. I'm going to read a bit of it, and you can add at the end. So Gail is a registered nurse, so that's one of her superpowers, and she's actually a functional or family FNP, which is, even a nurse with more superpowers, as well as an LMT and an advanced health or advanced holistic nurse, as well as board certified, of course, and Eden Energy Medicine and advanced practitioner and instructor. Gail and I share some of our background with the Donna Eden's their training. I participated in some of that training in 1990s, and Gail has taken it on as a mainstay of your practice. Is that right, Gail?
That's correct. Yes.
So, Gail, go ahead and add to your bio the parts I didn't fill and what you would like to share about your experience and your background.
Sure. Well, thanks, Carol. Um, so I have been a family nurse practitioner now for, oh my gosh, 40 some odd years. And the bulk of that time has been spent with women's health. When I became a nurse practitioner, it was kind of a new concept. And so women found that there was a female provider. And so it just sort of naturally evolved into they wanted me to do their pap smears and breast exams and all of that. So that's how that evolved. And over the course of that time, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of women and gotten to know and share and work with women regarding these very intimate parts of our bodies, and when they don't work right, and what we can do, what are some of the different tools that we can use. And so the other thing that I found that was helpful in my practice, particularly when I relocated here to Bend, is that I stumbled onto Donna Eden's work in 2007, and I was so blown away by what I experienced and what I saw that I pursued the full training in that. And I now teach her program. I teach the first year of the program right here. And I have a course that will be starting up, I think it's the end of April. So that's something, if people are interested, please contact me. The class is going to be small. I always keep them very small. I limit it to 6, just because of the nature of the work. So, energy medicine, as I tell people, for those not familiar, there are a lot of different techniques. The type that I practice is the Eden method. You can think of it as acupuncture without the needles. That's my elevator speech because people go, oh, okay, and start to get that idea. But it is working with the subtle energy system of the body. And so I transitioned out of conventional healthcare now. I want to say it's been about 7 or 8 years ago. And I do strictly energy work and coaching and teaching and that kind of thing. So in my practice, if a person comes to me as a client, you can expect to come in. We have a very nice office that I share with 2 other LMTs and three other LMTs and 3 other energy practitioners. Um, so your visit you'll come in. I'll talk to you first about what's going on with you. I like to hear people's stories because I learn a lot by just listening and hearing. Um, And then I will talk about what we're going to do. And this is just a typical energy types visit. You will remain fully clothed. I use a massage table. You'll be laying on that. And I do a combination of teaching you some techniques that help to balance all of the energy systems. And these are things like the chakras and the meridians and the aura or biofield. Um, so we do that, and I do some energy testing, which is really fun for people to see how this stuff works. When we take this a little, then I will put you on the table. I do some testing and balancing, and then I will give you some home care to do to help to support what we did that particular day. So it's a partnership, and I really stress the fact that it is a partnership. We have a medical system that's really kind of taken the partnering out, where it becomes more that a patient gets told, this is what you'll do. And I want people to feel empowered in what they're doing. So that's a basic energy type session. If a person is interested, I should say, in the BioWell camera, which I did talk about, I stumbled over this technology in 2017, and I was absolutely fascinated with it. So the short version is it was discovered probably, well, I would say it was invented about 20 some odd years ago
Hmm.
in Russia by Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, and unfortunately we lost him this last year. He passed away, but he's left this amazing legacy with this camera. And what it is something called a GDV camera. That stands for gas discharge visualization. And we are beings that are emitting and absorbing different biologic gases. So it's things like hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, though, nothing mysterious here. They are being absorbed and taken in by our skin, all places. We focus on the fingers with this device because the fingers are small and easily measured. And so the device looks like a little box. It's about roughly that big. It has an orifice. A person puts their finger in one at a time. We start with the right hand, right thumb, and then we go in that order. Then we do the left hand. Each time you put the finger in, I hit the scan button. And what that does is it sends a little millivolt, well, it sends a millivolt of electricity through the, it's a dielectric plate. It's a glass plate. You don't feel anything at all, but
Right.
it excites the electrons and the biophotons of the gases around the fingers. And so it will create a type of a scatter pattern that the camera will then go ahead and read and then interpret. So when I say interpret, what's really fun about it is we get a pictorial reading. We get an actual visualization, basically, of what your aura looks like. And we take a look at, how uniform is the aura, how smooth, color, things like that. Then we will look at the chakras, and we look at the amount of energy, which, by the way, this camera measures it in joules, which is Joules. That's a term in physics very well known and accepted. So we are measuring the joules that we see in the aura and that in the chakras. We look at the alignment of the chakras, and what we tend, and I know that I was taught, is we tend to think that the chakras are all in a straight line. They're not. They
Right.
move. Okay, they move around. They get bigger, smaller, depending on what's going on. And we will then take a look at the energy in the meridians themselves. We take a look at the energy in the organs themselves. And this helps to give us an idea of the functional capacity and energy reserve that the person's body actually has. Then we will look at biorhythms that's built into the program, and we look at three parameters. We look at the physical energy, we look at emotional energy, and intellectual energy. And it's interesting because in many countries, people will look at their biorhythms before they make any kind of big decision, like to take a job or buy a home or something like that, or start a relationship. Looking at these
That sounds
three,
like a great idea.
it does. Yeah, it really does. And so those factor in, and it can be very useful when I get a reading that somebody's biorhythm, their physical energy. Like I just did one on somebody the other day, and it was pretty well tanked right about the 29th of January. And they were like, well, I feel kind of tired. And their pictures showed that they were low in energy. Okay.
Mm.
And so anyway, we go ahead and we get a baseline scan. We go through that together. I point out and explain what we're doing. I then put the person on the table. I do some energy balancing, and then we will repeat the scan and see what happened after that. The single biggest thing that I like people to understand about the scan and about technology is that when I run a scan, you have to think of it as that's what's happening right now. It can change 5 minutes from now. It'll certainly change a day from now. And so I don't get excited if we see some aberration of some sort on there unless we do repeated scans and it's showing up. And if it shows up several times in a row, that may indicate, notice I said the word may indicate, we're measuring energy. That's what we're measuring here. May indicate that there's some sort of an issue that should be addressed. So if I do see something like that, then I will encourage someone to, I'll ask a lot of questions, but I'll encourage somebody, I may say, I suggest that you see, your primary care person or the appropriate person, depending what's going on. So you don't have to have the scans. They're fun and they're nice because they're a visual of what's going on. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the BioWell. Um, so
So I've been to
yeah,
your location. Really nice, warm house environment that your office is in, and a cozy consult and treatment room. We did the BioWell scan, so I put my fingers in the device, which was painless, and it was really fun to see that readout that you did for me, and to lay on your table to experience some of that light touch or energy work that you do, and then to measure it afterwards. And you sent me a printout, and yeah, I really enjoyed that process. Very comfortable, very welcoming and warm environment that you have. And I love that you really created a beautiful marriage between your scientific, curious background with all of your education, along with your intuitive and energy medicine work, and put those two together. And it's really a great combination. So,
no,
Gail,
thanks.
I
Yeah,
have
it's a
a
lot of fun.
couple. It is. So I wanted to go over a couple of the questions from the event last week with you and have a little discussion about them. The first one is a question: is there anything that can be done about hot flashes and night sweats? I've had them for 15 plus years, 10 years postmenopausal. So,
Sure.
with your background in women's healthcare, I'm sure this is something you've dealt with thousands of times.
Yes. Yes, I have. So it really depends on the person and the angle that they want to come at. We know that conventionally women have, been prescribed different hormones and that kind of thing. And for some folks, some women, it works. For others, they end up with side effects from them, or they are not, it's contraindicated for them because they've had a history of cancer or blood clots or something. So, excuse me, it's not a one size fits all. So, what are some other things? Well, my work is based heavily on Chinese medicine. And
Mm,
so, Chinese medicine's been around, or several Oriental medicines, in fact, basically.
right.
So, I will use, it's more like acupressure. Okay. Again, it's
Mm-hmm.
acupuncture without the needles. So, for hot flashes, if a woman will find her belly button and you go down about 1 inch, there is a point there on the what we call the central or the REN channel, REN, or
Okay.
we learned it in Donna's work as the central vessel. That's
Yes.
also another way it's referred to. It's central vessel, I believe it's 6. Uh, don't hold me to it, but I think it's 6. But the key is where you touch, and that's about 1 inch below the belly button. If you massage this very, very strongly, we actually call this the cool down point. And it does
Oh,
work.
I love it.
It does work. So you need to massage it firmly, say 10 to 15 seconds, and you may need to do this throughout the day. Okay.
Okay.
And so that's more for right now, like, I'm like, oh,
When
but
women are like taking
pulling
their
off your
jackets
clothes
off
and
and opening the
right,
windows and fanning themselves and
right.
looking very distressed and yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Now, another one that is more of kind of training your body not to go there in the first place is called, Donna calls it dousing the fires, and it's
Okay.
appropriate. And what this one is, you're going to take your middle finger. So we'll just start with the right hand. So the middle
Okay.
finger, you're going to go to the left collarbone. So you find the point of the
Okay.
collarbone, and you're going to push in along the top of the collarbone as
Okay.
you slowly turn your head towards the right. So the left finger,
Okay.
excuse me, the right finger's on the left collarbone, and you've taken in a breath, and then you let it out. And as you're letting it out, the finger comes back to the midline.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then you do the other side, same thing.
Oh, okay. So we
Okay.
find on this side.
Yeah. And we try to go all the way out to the shoulder,
Oh, okay. With the finger. Okay.
and then come back in. And then you'll go back to the first side again. And this time you're only going to go about 3/4 of the way. Take a breath.
Okay.
And then you're going to come back
All right.
midline, and we'll do the same the other side so we're not lopsided.
That's kind of
And
good.
then it does feel good. And then finally, we're just going to do this again. Only this time, you're only going to be go about halfway. So big deep breath
Okay.
in, just about halfway, and then back to center, and then do the same thing on the other side.
That's fascinating. So at the
Yeah,
event, you taught us to do this hold, and after that event, I mean, it's a lot to put on an event like that and have all the details. And the following day, I had a really full day in my clinic, and at the end of that, the day after, I was just like brain fog. So I lay down on my bed. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Gail had showed us this hold to help my brain, and I like fell asleep holding that
yeah, yeah.
position because it really did help refresh. So I there's so many wonderful just working with the flow of the body. Like I definitely feel something shifted with what we just did.
Yeah,
My body
yeah,
is feeling a little energized. So thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. That's
You're welcome.
wonderful. So the next question we're going to chat about, is there any product I can use to stimulate my breasts after a double mastectomy? And so I'm assuming, Gail and I chatted beforehand about this question, that this may be relating to sensation in the nipples, which personally, with my experience with, look how my collarbone's a little pink there from, I guess I
Yeah,
was rubbing well. As a regenerative practitioner, I use platelet-rich plasma often for stimulating the repair of the tissues around the urethra and vaginal area around the clitoris. And I have also been trained to do some techniques of injecting PRP underneath the areola, or the dark round circular part that extends beyond the nipple, to help repair some of the tissue and sensation there. So I'm aware of that type of therapy, but we wanted to talk a little further with you, just with your women's healthcare experience, and then also stepping back a little further. And I mean, double mastectomy is a huge event for a woman. And so, of course, that's going to impact her on the physical, mental, emotional, I mean, all the meridians and the energy patterns. So maybe you could speak a bit to us from all of your perspectives.
okay. Well, I'll kind of direct this more as because as Carol just mentioned, there are some great things that can be done as the aftermath of this to get sensation back, and and as a woman moves forward in her life after this very big surgery. It's very big. It's physically, it's emotionally big. It's all of these things.
Yeah.
From the energy perspective, I could probably teach a whole class on this. So there's not
Wow.
a specific, but what I will tell you is a couple of things that we would target. And there is an energy called Sanjiao or triple warmer, triple burner, who is an energy of that's our defense system.
Hmm.
And it is a masculine energy, a yang energy. So I call him him. He's a
Okay.
good guy. Sometimes he's triggered too often and he mounts a defense. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that he can get very triggered by surgery simply because you're being cut, and
Mhm.
and this is the interpretation that Donna has received. Donna is a clairvoyant. For people who don't know Donna's work, she's a lot of things. She's an amazing person, an intuitive and a clairvoyant. But what she said she sees is that he reacts like, you're in danger of being killed because
Oh, wow.
there's a knife going into your field, and
Wow.
it's affecting your aura and all that. So what happens is he can mount this extra defense. And as I pointed out the night of the class, the reason you do this is you're helping to bring blood back up into the brain, because when this defense is triggered, the blood leaves, not all of it, but about 80%, to go into the
Yeah.
body for fight or flight. And that's
Yeah.
his kind of go-to. Is like, oh, this is dangerous, you're going to be killed.
Mm.
So the reason this is important, it totally impacts your immune system completely, because he works with another energy system called the spleen meridian, and she's in charge of our immune system. Now, this is very general, okay? But
Yes.
it's that's why we say stress makes you sick. Okay, is when we are
Mm-hmm.
stressed can make you sick. And there's one other energetic entity that factors into that, and this is, I remember Donna always saying this with breast cancer, is you always want to make sure that the stomach meridian is balanced, because stomach starts right about here, circles around, comes down through the eyes, down through the breast, down kind of through the ovary area as well, and then goes out to the side of the leg and down the outside of the leg and comes off the second toe. Why are we interested in that? Because triple warmers energy sometimes will flow over, and it has everything to do with the flow patterns for these energies. Again, I won't go into that, but you can have an excess of stomach energy, stomach meridian energy. And people who worry a lot, and let's just face it, when have gotten, we've got something going on with our breasts, and then we're waiting for results and we're worried, right? I mean, that's pretty typical
Yes.
that we're worried sick. Well,
Yeah.
that's going to factor in, and could, keeping that area balanced, in other words, can really be an important factor with
Mm.
a woman's successful healing. So
Wow.
that's the very short version.
Well, and that ties into the other question we were going to chat about, which is a woman had a question or an ask for help. She said, I struggle with having my vagina tear during sex, even with lube. It gives me a lot of anxiety. Help. So you were just sharing about anxiety and stress and the immune system and how it's all tied in together.
Yes, absolutely. And this question came up many times when I was in my conventional practice. Um, it, I mean, let's face it, when sex has not felt good for whatever reason, I think all of us have had a time or more where we're like, oh, and as I would tell women, vaginas are smart. They'll go,
I like that.
you really want to do that again? Remember last time? So that sets up a pattern. And the reason I bring that up is, remember our little friend Triple Warmer? He's a
Uh-huh.
keeper of habits. He's a keeper of patterns. He doesn't like to change, even though he should. Okay. So he's hanging on to. So what do we do when there's pain? We tend to tense up. Anything, if we're about to get hurt, we tense up. It's a protective thing. So the first piece of this is that I would tell women, if there's like scarring involved, it could be something where like an episiotomy, or somebody tore during childbirth, or
Right.
there's radiation issues. I mean, it can be number of things, okay, or just trauma to the area where scar tissue is involved. That's where it can be challenging working with scar tissue, but it's not completely impossible. And Carol has some great solutions for that
Right.
too. But from a kind of a energetic and other, basic GYN perspective, if a person, and we'll just start from the beginning, if a person is able to use it, sometimes using an estrogen based cream, if there's no contraindications. Occasionally, and I'm not doing this so much now, so this may have changed, but sometimes we would use more of a steroid based cream to help with any inflammatory process going on. The other thing is that sometimes it is simply that, and this doesn't apply to everybody, so I'm just kind of throwing this out in general, but it might be some manual stimulation. We've called it masturbation, self-pleasuring. I mean, I don't think it matters what it's called, but women need to feel comfortable with that. And I used to give it as homework, to be honest with you.
Yes.
There are a lot of huge health benefits, just so people know, to orgasm.
Yeah.
Huge health benefits. Okay. And it makes you produce a hormone called oxytocin, which is the tender friend hormone. It's also very good for the musculature in this area. So sometimes it's simply using different dilators or different toys. They've got all kinds of you know, fun toys out there that
Yeah.
women can experiment with, and know that it's I would tell people, you're doing this for your health. So don't feel funny about it. And I think people have gotten better over the years of not, you know, putting a stigma with any of this. I mean, they shouldn't. Sexuality is as important, an important part of our health as anything else. It's,
Absolutely.
our sexual health is right up there with our emotional health and our physical health, and all of that. So I
Yeah.
would just say that those are some things that you can physically do. Self-stimulation, dilators, whatever it needs, but just maybe stretch the tissue a little bit too. And as Dr. Carol was saying, use this when you're thinking, before you're going to have sex. Start to,
Hmm.
we're retraining the brain, like, oh, I'm going to visualize as I'm holding that my vagina is going to be relaxed, that it's going to lube properly. Use lube if you need to. Use as much as you need to.
Lots
You know,
of lube.
right. Don't worry about the mess. We'll deal with that later. You need to be comfortable, and that's the key thing. So
Yeah.
this right here can help to retrain the brain from going into that anxiety producing, like, oh, this isn't going to feel very good.
So instead
So
of I have a headache, I can't have sex, it's just a minute, let me get my
right.
head in the game so we can have sex.
Right. And here's
I
what I
love
would
that.
say is do it a time different, like during the day, if you have a few minutes and
Right.
you're not in where you're going to be having sex, take a minute and do this, because every time you're doing
Yeah.
that, you're helping to train your brain not to go into that, because the idea is, when we do this, we're training the brain, like, oh, don't go into that panic mode, don't
Mhm.
go into where we're creating anxiety over this. And then if the brain goes, oh, that's right, we don't need to have the blood leave, we'll bring it back up, we'll start working on this new neural pathway, as I think I had mentioned. What we want to do is build a new path. Let
Yes.
weeds grow over the old path. That's the old path of anxiety. But have a new path that you're forging, that gets stronger, because every time we go to a thought, feeling, when we put energy to it, we're making it stronger. So we
Yeah.
want to go to the new pathway.
I love that, Gail. I'm going to be walking around like this a lot.
I give
Well,
that as
and
homework a lot.
the thing that I experience in my practice, it daily, I am moved by the suffering that women endure and the state of vaginal tissue when it's not, it doesn't have good integrity or good moisture or good elasticity is really challenging. And I see a
Yeah.
lot of women patients with pain, and I have many tools in my experience as well. Mine are on the more physical realm of using topical salves and ointments and herbal combinations that work really well, hormones, the regenerative therapies I do with PRP or Vivive, and I get to work with women to help regenerate and repair and rejuvenate those tissues so they can get back to enjoying their physical body and enjoy sensation and touch. And the clitoris has 10,000 nerve endings there, so it's a
Yeah.
very amazing part of the body to experience sensation with. So I love the spectrum that we share, that we offer here, both from the physical aspect and so I can direct my patients your direction to help work with that resetting the nervous system, and then I can work with women on that physical tissue level. So
Sure.
and this is the whole point, actually, of the women's intimate health circles that I've created, is this community offering is really what helps women get the best results. And one of us is not the full picture generally, and that
Right.
I say it takes a community, it takes a circle, it takes a village to really keep our women's health and wellness intact and as healthy as we can get it. So uh, thank you so much for all that you shared today. Any
Sure.
last thoughts or comments that you'd like to add to our discussion?
I hope you do another one of these circles again soon, because I think this is so empowering for the women of our community. I think what you just said hit the nail on the head, that there is no one size fits all. There's no one solution for each woman, and that we need to be exposed to a variety of things. Take all of that in, ponder it, whatever, just contemplate it, go deep inside and see what works for you. And, we have this tremendous treasure of, wealth of practitioners in our community. And I think what Carol, what you've started here is huge. And I think that it's going to get bigger. And I love the way that, how you've started out with this, is bringing these different experts in so that women can experience it and they get a chance to kind of meet the person and see that,
Yeah.
yeah, I like her energy. I really want to go see her, or I really want to try some of that, like what Carol's talking about, or any of the other practitioners. So thank you for doing this, because I think it's great.
Well, thank you. And I'm eyeballing sometime in May. So that
Perfect.
it's coming in the spring sometime. And I
Perfect.
look forward to just continuing sharing and expanding the circle. All right.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Gail.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all that you do for women.
And I appreciate what you do too.
Thank you. Okay. So